Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. And welcome to... We don't have a special name for Thursday. We have to think of something special. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Wisdom of the Sages. Wisdom of the Sages is a community-supported podcast. And if you like what we do, you can go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. And you can join our online Patreon party going on, where we have regular classes on a regular basis, like yoga classes. You don't even have to be part of a yoga studio anymore. Matter of fact, no yoga studios are practically open in America anymore. It's ridiculous. Like, you know how you have these 4 phases in like opening your things? Mm-hmm. Phase 1, phase 2. We're in phase 4. This is like the final phase. We still can't open. So everybody's living online right now. But we have some great yoga teachers teaching. A bunch are here. If you'd like to teach, talk to Mara. She'll assist you. We screen our teachers, though. We make you take a very rigorous 1,000-hour training with me. And that's how you can teach online. And then we test you philosophically, and we make you wake up very early, fasting, taking cold showers, and then after you jump through all those hoops, you can teach on Wisdom of the Sages. Anyway, we have great teachers from internationally teaching, and then we have a great 12-step recovery group, also a part of our Patreon party, and a vault of valuable Vedic wisdom and workshops, classes, etc. So, that being said, how are you, Kaustubha?
Good. Ready to go.
Ready to go? I had Mara came over for dinner yesterday. Do you know that?
You had her over for dinner. Does that mean that she cooked or that you cooked?
No, she sort of just dropped by.
Look at that. Mara just dropped in.
Dinner.
Right at dinner time. It was perfect time.
Okay. And, did you get some of that peach pie that he made the other day?
I didn't get any peach pie, but I did get some cobbler.
We made peach cobbler. We have a peach tree that's going berserk right now, just like shooting peaches out.
On your property?
Yeah, on my property. We got peach trees.
I didn't know anything about that.
I got a whole orchard I planted.
I was just up there. You didn't mention a word about this peach tree.
Well,
you have an orchard? Where is this orchard?
The orchard's on the hill. Come on.
I never saw that.
It's my bug out. It's my apocalypse pad.
We got
a generator. We got spring water. We've got the fruit trees. I'm ready for the world to collapse, and I invite the whole Zoom community here when things go to.
You will have pie even if the whole world collapses.
When the dung hits the fan, you guys are all coming here, and we're going to start a new world.
All right.
Okay. You can be the president. Okay. I'll be of our new order.
New community.
New order. I will be the jester because people need to laugh when the world is crumbling.
And they need a little peach pie.
Yeah. Yeah. It was nice to host Mara because she's always feeding us. It was nice to feed. Oh, friends. And I'm going to New Jersey today. I'm seeing so many Zoom people today because I'm taking my kids, going to New Jersey, and we're doing a.
Oh, which means that we should announce about the weekend again.
Yeah. This weekend. Why don't you say the details?
This weekend, because Raghunath will be very busily engaged serving.
That's a nice way to put it. I thought you were going to say on vacation.
No. Your vacation is, you always serve. Whatever you do, even when you're on vacation, you're serving.
You're a sweet man. You're a sweet man.
It's true. And so Saturday, we will not have a show. And we bump Saturday's questions and answers over to Sunday morning. Sunday morning, 8 a.m., the usual time. We'll have, rather than an interview, we'll have questions and answers.
Okay. So if you got a question that you want to ask us, we'll try our best to answer. You just write to Mara. wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Alrighty. Let's dive into this. We're going to start today reading 17, which we, or 16. Did we say we wanted to start with 16?
Well, yeah, let's just go back. Just sometimes to get going, you just need to read the verse that you read last. So we read 16. Let's read 16.
Okay,
Canto 1.
Go ahead.
Chapter 19. We're almost done. Sukadeva Goswami is almost about to appear. He might appear tomorrow or maybe Monday, but he's coming soon.
Sukadeva Goswami's coming to town. He's wearing no clothes.
Okay. All right, Rabbi, slow it down. Let's chant those invocations. Yes.
Rayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatojaya mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should first offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to your heart is almost completely destroyed in loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Prayers to our Guru. Some people are writing me privately right now. I'm going to break their anonymity and say, where are you getting your cool shirts from? If you'd like to be accepted and loved by your peers, and you like people to say good things about you despite your glaring shortcomings, and if you believe in being spiritual and fashionable, check out our Wisdom of the Sages gear merchandise available at supersoul.merchnow.com. supersoul.merchnow.com. And then you can join our little club. Okay, this is text. Did you say 16, right? Probably.
Yeah, 16.
Again, offering obeisances unto all you brahmanas, I pray that if I should take birth, this is so good. I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna. Association, that's one, right? So he's got 3 things he's asking for.
3 things.
This is a great thing to memorize because sometimes we are in a really tough situation where we have to just throw out a prayer, right? Here's the 3 things Sukadeva Goswami, Maharaj Pariksit prayed for. The first one is, okay, if I have to take birth again, may I take birth in the material world with complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna. Next one, the association with his devotees and friendly relationships with all living beings.
Yeah, Bhakti is not about becoming desireless. It's about purifying those desires.
How do you become desireless? It's such a crazy philosophy, get rid of desires. What am I supposed to just hold my breath, close my ears? Like what are those monkeys, like close your eyes, cover your mouth? You can't become desireless. We are desire. We just have to refine our desires.
So so this is, often people approach the yoga paths, or even like religion in general, seeking something. Some are seeking the things of this world, right? Even in relatively pious ways. I want rain for my crops. I want the birth of a healthy child. I want, auspiciousness materially to come into our lives. And that's called karma, path of karma. And then there's path of jnana, which can be motivated by the idea of, I want relief from the sufferings of this world. But he's not praying for either of those. In the previous verse or so, he said, let the snake bird come and bite me. That's all right. Here he's saying, and it wasn't even like, okay, I'll go through that horrible experience, but because I expect to go to heaven afterwards, I expect to, achieve some material goal or freedom from material suffering after I go through that. He's not even saying that. He's saying, even if I need to come back into this world again, after being bitten by that horrible bird, snake bird, that's fine with me if I could just have this. This is what I desire. And these desires, they're considered pure desires because they're completely in alignment, completely harmonious with connecting with their divine source, with the desire of their divine source. They're completely connected to God. So the first one is this Bhagavat-Yanante Rati. Rati means, it's the opposite of what a lot of people think about yoga. Rati means attachment, right? Usually we think of yoga, it's about detachment. But the point is, by being attached to Bhagavan, to God, one becomes entirely detached. It's the most effective way to become entirely detached from everything material or everything separate from God.
Because I think most people, when they get into yoga or even into bhakti, they think, well, I got to give up this. I got to give up this. It's because we indulge in, we have no parameters whatsoever generally. So it seems like we're giving up a lot. But compared to like very rigid yoga systems or even monastic orders of other traditions, there's so much like, know this, know that, know this, know that. And truthfully, our senses are really, it's a very sensual process in a lot of ways, because there's sense, our smell and our tastes. There's food, there's scent, there's dressing up even. And so it's not like we are like these a rigid sort of what's the guy from Star Trek, Mr. Spock, robots. It's actually a culture where we engage our senses, but our senses are used in only things that actually bring us higher, lift us up. Yeah, we're eating, but the food is cooked in meditation, right? Even when we're picking these peaches with my kids, they're like, let's pick a peach for Krishna. Even when you're growing the peach, you're thinking, how can I offer this? When you're growing flowers are very sensual, right? You smell them, they're beautiful to look at, but you're thinking, how can I offer this to Krishna? These will be nice for puja. Or even when we're dressing up, sometimes you go to the temple to dress up. We should be dressing, how will I appear in front of Krishna? And it's a nice way. It takes all those sensual things of the material world, and it fulfills us in a very deep way. We don't have to cut those out. In this bhakti path, we're in the world. It's just not of the world. That's the beautiful thing here. I've tried to shut my senses down. Did I ever tell you this one, Kaustubha?
I'm not sure.
I was on
What did
tour.
you do?
I was on tour in Youth of Today, my first band.
Ideal place for the practice of complete detachment, touring with a punk rock band.
And I've realized I hated the words coming out of my mouth. Did you ever get to? You probably don't get to that, but
Well, that's a big topic.
I'm going to ask ordinary people here. Well,
I have gotten there.
Well, yeah. Well, you just like, I hate what's coming out of my mouth. I hate my jokes. My jokes are rude. I hate the fact that I'm gossiping. I hate the fact that I'm rude or cruel or oblivious. And I was just like, I'm so sick of my sense of humor. I'm so sick of like what I'm thinking. I'm so sick of being angry. I'm so sick. And you know what I said? I said, I'm going to stop. And I'm being offensive, and I'm hurting people's feelings. I'm going to just stop speaking because it's toxic. And I just shut up, and I refused to speak. It lasted about 24 hours. you can ask Parmananda. It might have even lasted shorter than that. But
It
the
became
idea
problematic when you had to do the show that night.
it became very problematic.
Everyone turned to you. It was like,
Hey, he's not speaking. He paid good money for this concert. But the idea is that you can't just shut down your senses. I guess we're going to go into this in later verses. Should I just bring this up later? Because this is
well, that will be a theme for today. So then let's go ahead and get through this verse,
all right, let's
and then
read
we'll
this
get
verse.
there.
This is a good one. So these are the three things.
Okay, so the first one again was Bhagavad-Gita Rati, complete attachment, but not material attachment, but attachment to Krishna. That's yoga. That's connection. That's union, right?
Is this the same desires that Prahlad Maharaj had when he asked for benediction?
Well, he asked for his father when he asked for benediction, right? He said,
Breeze.
yeah, he asked for the welfare of his father, who was the worst demon, who had tortured him in so many ways and tried to kill him in so many ways.
Association with devotees.
So, well, nothing for myself, but then please, be kind to my father. Then he says, prasangas chatad ashrayeshu, association with his devotees. So again, they're not trying to kill all desire, trying to purify desire, not trying to isolate oneself. It's just a question of who you associate with, right?
Right.
Yoga doesn't mean I have to go all alone. As a matter of fact, I'm better being with people if it's the right people. If I could just have the association of Krishna's devotees. Yeah.
Sometimes we get really frustrated with people. And so the natural thing is, I'm sick of people. And it's not. You're just sick of those people. And even in Bhakti, you will find, like, I love Kaustubha. I love hanging out with Kaustubha. I do. And therefore, it's sort of like you have to not just find any old devotee, but a devotee that sort of like resonates with who you are.
Like-minded devotees, we say.
Like-minded devotees.
Yeah.
That's important also, because you'll find people practicing Bhakti that you don't jive with for whatever reason.
That's okay.
That's okay.
No need to criticize.
No need to criticize. It's just natural. You'll find people that you resonate with. Find those people and keep them close.
Yeah. Okay. And then the third one is Maitriyastu Sarvatra. Friendly relations with all living beings. That's what I want. I want you to bless me. If I have to come back to this world, I just want to be able to move through this world where I have friendly relations with all living beings. I don't want to have some relationships where I'm trying to pull myself up by pushing them down. I want to be friendly with everyone, every living being. This is the mood of the Bhakti-yogi. 1, 2, 3.
I'm thinking of high school, boy. It was so miserable.
It's okay, Robert.
It was miserable. It's like, it wasn't friendly relationship. It was like finding your pecking order by pushing others down or getting pecked upon.
Did someone peck at you?
Oh yeah, the entire school pecked at me, and so I pecked back stronger.
Furiously pecking.
Some people don't even want to play that game. I was just like a fighter, but some people just like, okay, this is the game we're playing here. Peck on each other. I'm going to merge into the wall, and so nobody notices me. What were you like in high school?
By the time I got to, when I was younger, I was kind of one of the popular kids. But by the time I got to high school, the whole punk rock thing really made me problematic, And so basically all my friends turned, there are very few that kind of would even still, that were not hostile to me. Let's put it that way.
Everybody was hostile towards you?
And then I developed a new group of friends that were not in my school and that were
criminals.
Yeah,
we call them criminals.
They accepted me.
Mara, what was private school pecking order like? Was that?
Same as public school pecking order.
But it was all girls, so it's different.
It is different.
But apparently it can be real brutal too, right?
Yeah, it's really brutal, just in a different way.
But usually if you add a guy to the mix, it might even be worse. What do you think?
Sometimes.
I wonder, my daughter's going to all-girls school next year. I'm hoping it's easier. What do you think?
All right.
Okay, let's go. I'll just keep talking. You got to just keep me on track. I'm just like...
Text 17.
Text 17. I just like to talk.
That's going to be our theme for today, too.
You know what? Meet my mom. So you've met my mom. This woman can talk. You think I can talk? Talk to my mom. You don't even have to say anything. Sometimes people drive her from New York City to Super Soul.
Just keeps
They're
talking.
they're like, she talked the entire way. She just kept talking. And sort of interesting too. In perfect self-control, Maharaj Pritchett sat down on a seat of straw with straw roots facing the east, placed on the southern bank of the Ganges, and he himself faced the north. Just previously, he had given charge of his kingdom over to his son.
Okay.
A straw mat. It was a kusha mat. Kusha is the grass you sometimes see Ganesh holding.
Yeah.
Kusha, yeah, it's a sacred grass.
It's considered to be, yeah, all these things are considered to be auspicious for their different reasons. But if you take that kusha grass and you pull it out from the roots, and then you make a mat out of that and you face the roots east, and if you face north yourself, all these things are considered to be auspicious. He had his son. Okay, here's the hot seat. What's his son's name, Raghu?
Janmajaya.
Janmajaya.
Boom!
Boom, you got it. Excellent.
Try to get me on a Thursday morning after my mushroom brew. Forget it.
And now his son, everything's auspicious. Okay. Text 18.
Text 18. What the hell is my face? Amara, can you do me a favor and look up kusha? What is kusha grass in like Latin, or what do we call kusha grass? It's got to have an American name. I don't think it's kusha grass. I'm wondering if it's kusha grass is, what are those big grasses called? Anyway, do me a favor, just Google that up.
It's let's see. It's commonly known as halfa grass, big cord grass.
I forget it. I've never heard of that. Okay. Thus the king, Maharaj Pritchett, sat to fast until death. I was just thinking it'd be cool to grow it. Wouldn't it be cool to grow kusha grass? All the demigods on the higher planets praised the king's actions, and in pleasure continually scattered flowers over the earth and beat celestial drums. You hear about this a lot. The demigods would shower flowers from higher planets. Do you think that's actually a tangible flower, or like
Sure.
mystical, invisible flowers?
I would say it would be tangible.
No, you ever
I mean,
have
there's no indication of
ever have
anything
a
else
feeling
here.
like you're in a room and you feel like something eerie just happened? You ever have that? It's like nothing tangible, but something like, and sometimes you feel the opposite, like, oh, I feel good today, right now. I feel very, very good. Like, I'm thinking maybe that's what
That's
they
the
mean by
flowers.
showering flowers. Or do they actually think like rose petals from the sky are falling?
Well, I'm looking at Prabhupada's commentary. I'm looking at Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Neither of them mention anything like that.
Okay. So we're going to accept it as an actual flower fell from higher planets. And they beat celestial drums.
Okay. Text 19.
Continuing on. 1919. All the great sages who were assembled there also praised the decision of Maharaj Pritchett, and they expressed their approval by saying, very good. Naturally, the sages are inclined to do good to common men, for they have all the qualitative powers of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they were very much pleased to see Maharaj Pritchett, a devotee of the Lord, and they spoke as follows.
It says they had this praja anugraha. They would just do good to others. You know, that was just their modus operandi, you know. And you know, that reminds me again of just, a few times I've gone back and I read this letter that was written to that lady that passed away recently, Shamali. And it was a letter from her roommate in college who had no real connection to Bhakti-yogi except for meeting this one person. And, you know, and earlier we read today, you know, about how Maharaj Pritchett, he wanted one benediction. And that was, you know, friendly relationships with every living being. And this person wrote to her, like all that this person wrote, you know, you radiated joy, contentment, It was impossible to feel down or unmotivated around you. And then she said, you were whip smart and incredibly funny. Whip smart.
Whip smart.
And incredibly funny. Now, a lot of people that are whip smart and incredibly funny, they use it to
cut other people down.
But then she said, but always, always unfailingly kind. That was her modus operandi, right? To always be kind. And I think she also kind of ends it by saying, let me see, where is it here? She says, Shamli, you were and are and will always be a force of goodness. So here we're hearing how about the sages, they had this praja anugraha, to do good to all living beings. And she could recognize in this devotee, through the quality of their practice, that they were just a force for good in the world. And she profoundly felt that experience. So that's how the sages, that's just how they live,
So good. Raised by devotee parents.
Mm-hmm.
So nice, huh?
Good qualities.
Good qualities
good values.
From childhood. You learn what not to do, what to do.
Yeah. Okay. Text 20.
Imagine if Kaustubha, Mara, imagine if Kaustubha was raised by, he's already so nice. Imagine if he was raised by devotee parents. I mean, your parents were probably very responsible and good people, but imagine devotee parents where baby Kaustubha is worshiping a deity, like ringing the bell, right? With a little dhoti on, one of those little pull-up dhotis, little tilak, baby Kaustubha. Imagine how much more effulgent he would be.
If only.
Pulling a baby Rath Yatra cart right around, playing with his little Gopal deity. Little Mridanga.
Okay, Raghunath, we're running out of time in this show.
Lemon on the mushroom drink. All right, 1920. O chief of all the saintly kings of the Pandu dynasty, who are strictly in the line of Lord Sri Krishna, it is not at all astonishing that you give up your throne, which is decorated with the helmets of many kings, to achieve eternal association with the personality of Godhead. Like, renunciation is no big deal for a person like you, Maharaj Pariksit.
Yeah, the sages are speaking.
The ability to walk away from things, like, it's as great as it is, big deal. That's like the big, when you really become God conscious like that, nothing of the material world, even that incredible opulence, it's all just like, whatever, big deal. You walk away from it. You realize,
Text 21.
It's a gift we have in the West. We have a lot, and it's a gift because we've done it and we're over it. And a lot of people are born with a lot of have-not. Most of the world are have-nots. And there's like a hope, like, if I just get that, then I'll be happy. We have a lot, and we're sick of it. We are sick of stuff in our country. And even though we're sick of it, we just keep buying it because we're hoping there's one thing out there. If I have this, we shall all wait here until the foremost devotee of the Lord Maharaj Pariksit returns to the supreme planet, which is completely free from all mundane contamination and all human kinds of lamentation. Go on, sir.
Yeah, text 22.
All that was spoken by the great sages was very sweet to hear, full of meaning and appropriately presented as perfectly true. So, after hearing them, Maharaj Pariksit, desiring to hear of the activities of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, congratulated the great sages.
Let's get into this.
Let's tease this out.
Let's tease. So these are sages that are speaking. These are people literally what a sage means is someone who's wise. Being wise, it means that the way they choose to live, it all brings about the best results, right? Mm-hmm. Wise people know how to move through the world in such a way that it's always bringing about the best results. It brings about happiness. It brings about peace. It brings about, the upliftment of people. And so one thing that the sages are particularly careful about is how they speak. If I speak in one way, it's going to bring certain results. And if I speak in another way, it's going to bring other results. Now, here it mentions some things about the speech of the sages. All that was spoken, not just some, all that was spoken by the great sages. It was very sweet to hear. It was full of meaning, right? Full of meaning. It was profound. It was all like, you know, sometimes you hear someone speak and you say every word, every sentence was like just rich with meaning. I could just take any sentence from that,
Right,
and just meditate on it and contemplate it. You know, all that they spoke was very sweet to hear. It was full of meaning and appropriately presented as perfectly true. Right. So they're speaking the truth. They're speaking the truth in a pleasing way, and they're speaking truth that was very meaningful. And you know, this idea of speech, it becomes so important in the practice of you know, you want to take yoga off the mat, right? You want to go deeper than just practicing asana, which is what a lot of people are interested in now. You know, I got into practicing asana. It's a valuable, beautiful practice. It's improved my life. It's enhanced, you know, the way that I live, the way that I think, but I want to go deeper. Okay, well, here's one way to go deeper. Consider very carefully your speech, right? Yeah, consider very carefully how you speak. Is what I say true? Is what I say pleasing and not destructive? You know, these are the kind of things that the yogis consider very carefully. Now, particularly in Bhakti Yoga, you find, like, for instance, Rupa Goswami, one of the most important teachers of Bhakti Yoga. You know, he lived 500 years ago. He wrote many really important books. One of those important books was called The Nectar of Instruction. All right.
Vajrayagam, Manashakrota Vegam.
There you go. That's
You're going with that?
That's what I was going with. The very first words, the very first two words, Vacho Vegam, you know, one's speech. He mentions the things that one needs to control if one's going to practice bhakti, right? The things that one needs to get a hold of. He says, Vacho Vegam, Manasakrota Vegam. Vegam means the urge. So Vacha Vegam means the urge to speak. I need to control that. Manasakrota Vegam, controlling the anger within the mind, right? I need to get a control of how I speak. I need to control anger. Jiva Vegam, control of the tongue, you know, what I eat, you know.
Yeah.
Udara Upasta Vegam.
Control your pasta. That's from my...
Well, actually, it does relate to pasta. It's the belly and the genitals, right? The belly and the genitals are they have their urges. They need to be controlled.
The sages knew.
Yeah. So this verse, a sober person, dhira, you know, a sober person, a yogi, you know, who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals. That person is qualified to make disciples all over the world. That person is actually a teacher. You know, that you want to know who should be my teacher, who should be my guru. These are the qualities that you look for. Can this person control these things? If they can't, then at best, what they're teaching is unrealized, is not very deeply understood. So much better to learn from someone who's understood, you know, what they're teaching. And so these are the, you know, it begins with controlling the tongue, but there's so many important verses about this. But you know what we could go to, Raghu?
What?
Really fundamental stuff. Real, you know, Bhagavad-Gita, right? 17th chapter Bhagavad-Gita. It talks about the austerities that one performs and how austerity can be performed in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, or in the mode of ignorance. And when it talks about the austerities one performs, it talks about austerity. It talks about it in a construct that is commonly brought up in yoga teachings. And that is, let's look at it in terms of our words. First, let's look at it in terms of our body. Then look at it in terms of our speech or our words. And then let's look at it in terms of our mind, all right? Body, words, mind. Because these are, the yogi has to learn to control the body, the yogi has to learn to control the words, and the yogi ultimately has to learn to control their mind. And they go in that order, like in terms of difficulty to control. The body is the easiest to control, the words would be next, and the real challenge ultimately is to control the mind. So this is going to talk about austerities of the body, then austerities of speech, which we'll look into in depth, and then austerities of the mind. You ready?
Hit me. Hit me. Hit me with your best shot.
Okay, now let's control our
setup.
words. Speaking of controlling the tongue and the words.
That was a deep, sincere, heartfelt prayer to hear transcendental wisdom done,
Okay, gotcha.
manifest in a Pat Benatar song.
You purified it. You connected it. I get it. Okay. So text 14, this is chapter 17 of the Bhagavad-Gita. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like father and mother. And in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and nonviolence. This is how the body's meant to be engaged. You use it to worship or to serve. You know, here it says to serve God, to serve the Brahmins, the wise people in society, one's spiritual master, one's, you know, spiritual teacher, and superiors like mother and father. Maybe we should check in with our India correspondent, right? That sounds like a very Indian value.
Here, that's a very.
Is Aditi around?
She's got very.
Now we got to bring back
Unmuted
Aditi.
Unmuted DT. Let's get DT going. If you don't know Aditi, she's our Indian correspondent here. Aditi G.
Aditi.
She's probably doing.
She's
something.
unmuted.
She's here.
She's
Okay.
here.
But she's not responding. She's controlling her. She's gone Mona Vrata. She's controlling her tongue.
Yeah, vow of silence.
Yes,
right now.
brother.
Oh, there she is. Aditi, was this kind of part of the values you brought? Like really like to respect the mother and the father, to serve them?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Just checking.
We caught her off guard this morning. She wasn't ready for the. Every Thursday, you're on, Aditi. Come on.
Okay, Prabhu.
I said Aditi Thursday. Yeah. But you know, all of these things, you know, it's just like, here's how you engage, you know, find people, you know, whether there's humility, they say that like someone's superior to me. You know, my parents, they're providing everything for me. I should serve them with my body.
Well, I think some people in America, especially when we grew up, we like, our parents are like train wrecks. So it's sort of like, you're not superior to me. You can barely, you know, you can't stop drinking. You're a hardcore alcoholic, or sometimes our parents abandoned us. You know, I think Aditi's still part of that.
Exceptions. There are exceptions, you know.
But that, well, I was just saying, Aditi grew up in that culture where the parents are respected. The parents are showing the way of Dharma, and therefore truth and knowledge is trickling down for generations.
Right.
It's actually very wonderful.
Prabhupada has a nice short commentary on this. Okay. He says, Krishna here, he's explaining the different kinds of austerity and penance. First, he explains the austerities and penances practiced by the body. One should offer or learn to offer respect to God or to the demigods, the devas, the perfect qualified brahmanas, not just anyone that's walking around claiming to be a brahmana, and the spiritual master and superiors like father, mother, or any person who's conversant with Vedic knowledge. These should be given proper respect. One should practice cleansing oneself externally and internally. And he should learn to become simple in behavior, right? Straightforward, simple in behavior. I don't need all of this stuff, you know. He should not do anything which is not sanctioned by scriptural injunctions. He should not indulge in sex outside of married life, for sex is sanctioned in the scriptures only in marriage, not otherwise. This is called. He says this is called celibacy.
Name that verse. Name that verse.
What, from Bhagavad-Gita?
Yeah.
What is it? Kamosmi
Bharatarsabha, right?
Yeah. And he says this is called celibacy. So he says even within marriage, he's saying that kind of sense control is called celibacy. These are penances and austerities as far as the body is concerned. Okay. Now let's look at text 15, austerity of speech, right? This is our theme for today. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others. And also regularly reciting Vedic literature, right?
This is huge. Being truthful doesn't mean you will say any old thing. Yeah, you got big ears. Yeah, you have very big ears. Look, being truthful like that just means you're rude and people don't like you. We say being truthful means we speak eternal truths. And this other one being, what is it? Not pleasing words. So even the way you're speaking to me during this entire show, you're saying, oh no, Raghunath is very deep, or you're saying very kind things. And then I reply, oh, Kaustubha, sweet baby Kaustubha. And Kaustubha, he already takes, it's almost like this, it's a practice in speech, actually. And it's not because Kaustubha and me dropped from the heavens. It's a practice of how to treat each other instead of just cutting each other down, which is very common in the material world. I cut them down and I find my worth from how many people I can take down. It's a really sick habit. And that's why this thing in Bhakti of not criticizing each other is so powerful, and not criticizing people practicing Bhakti, or just not criticizing people in general. It doesn't mean you throw out all discernment. It means you train yourself to see greatness in people. And it's a very powerful tool as a parent, as a teacher, as a yoga teacher, as a friend, as a lover. Train yourself to see greatness in people, and don't play this cutting, sarcastic game that a lot of us grew up with. If you still have it in you, get rid of it. If you're not good at it, treat it like a 12-step program. Just today, stop finding fault with people. Stop being sarcastic, brash, rude, cutting, etc. And train yourself. And within the community of people who like us here, I'm looking at the Zoom faces. The people who are in this community, play the game. Play the appreciation game. Play the kind words game. Don't be cutting and crude. And it's hard if we grew up with that. And that's why it's sometimes hard to go back to old relationships and friends when they only knew the other game, which is cut downs. Our humor is cutting and critical and rude. And they say it's the greatest thing you can do, or the worst thing you can do for your spiritual life. They compare it to, and now, especially upstate right now, everyone has these very beautiful gardens. It's like having a maddened elephant just go through your garden and destroy it. Nothing is left. And your precious garden, you work so hard, you weed, you cultivate, a maddened elephant. They say criticizing devotees is the worst thing you can do for your spiritual life. Doesn't matter how many times you chant japa, how many rounds you chant of japa, how many kirtans you've been to, how many spiritual things or pilgrimages you've done, or how many times you've bathed in the Ganges. All you have to do is criticize devotees, and you will ruin it all. It is like ruining all of your spirit. It's like getting everything out of your spiritual bank account. It's like your spiritual currency is devalued. How many more analogies will I have to use, Mara?
the maddened elephant. That's a strong one, right?
Maddened elephant. I like the spiritual currency is devalued. I just came up with that on the spot.
The maddened elephant is more terrifying,
Yeah. Or hyperinflation.
Okay. Prabhupada, he says in his commentary, one should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Then he says, of course, when a teacher speaks, they can speak the truth for the instruction of their students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not their students if it will agitate their minds. Very interesting point, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting point.
Kaustubji, I'm gonna chase a squirrel here, because Luke, who works I can't remember. He like works in he runs a body shop or something like that. Luke Carmen, one of our regular Zoomies. He says, I've been practicing this for a long time. It's really hard in this car business because all the guys I work with, they just make fun of each other all day long and talk nasty. It is very, very tough when you're surrounded by people on a regular basis who have that type of humor, who engage you in that type of humor. You almost have to build like a force field around you because sometimes also it's funny. Like I think I said the other day, like I like comedy. I like listening to comedy. But if the comedy gets nasty and rude, I can't let it in. I have to like put up a parameter of those sounds that go in my ears. So this is why it is great, and it's almost like a relief to get the association of people practicing bhakti. But for people like Luke who can't help it, maybe they don't even have control of what comes out of people's mouths, you have to develop a force field because it's because we become like what we hear as well. It starts to train us in our own dialogue or inner dialogues or sense of humor, etc. Mara's pretty cool because she's the boss of her kitchen in her catering business, simonscatering.com. But she just made a rule one day. She's like, okay, the language, that type of talk is not going to happen. And she's installed like new types of talk. Like now the guys who work for her are like, okay, this is where we're going to, here's your food. It's all ready for the offering. This is what the guys who work in her kitchen are saying. The food is ready for the offering. Okay, this is already offered. So sometimes if you do have control of that, of your workplace, you can set things in motion. And you know what? People will only think better of you for raising that bar. They'll be like, oh, okay, this person has some standards. Maybe I should rise up to those standards. And that's why I like hanging out with you, Kaustubha, and other nice devotees, because they help me raise my bar. And I always want to be around people who lift that bar instead of lowering that bar. What do you think about that, sweet baby Kaustubha? I can't get that big. I can't get little baby Kaustubha out of my mind.
Well, it's reminding me of this
You gotta
one
name
lesson.
the show this. You gotta name the show Sweet Baby Kaustubha today.
I don't think so. Not gonna. It's just reminding me of this one lesson that it's just so important. I sympathize with was it Luke you mentioned?
Luke Carmen.
I sympathize with Luke. It's a tough position to be in. Here's one point to consider, Luke. This really important teaching that I gathered from Bhakti Tirtha Swami, right? Who was just he had such great insights.
Special man.
He's just a person that just didn't allow any nonsense into his life, right? And he said this. He said that if someone comes up to me and is talking some kind of nonsense, is speaking some kind of gossip, is lowering that quality of conversation, if they come up to me and start speaking that way, now, okay, that's the beginning of the sentence, right? Now you think it's going to go this way, like, well, I tell them to, shut up, or like, I don't, this is what he said. This is deep. He said, I think to myself, what is it about me that makes them think that I would be at all interested in engaging in that kind of conversation? Right? Flipping it.
He's flipping it.
He's flipping it. What is it about me that thinks that I want to hear, makes them think that I'd be willing? So now, I know that this is hard in a workplace where people don't share these values. And at the very least, and I think this should penetrate into the workplace and all that. But at the very least, within the realm of people that do practice yoga and do practice bhakti, if we show an intolerance to that kind of talk, and you don't even have to correct the person like verbally, even if they can just see you change the subject immediately, even if they can just see, you kind of shut down when they went there, people start to get it's a gentle way of giving someone the message that, yeah, I don't engage in that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And, but again, just like we saw with this Shamali, I often use my wife as an example, who went into a workplace where people didn't practice bhakti or yoga or anything like that, but they got her vibe, they got her vibe. And that kind of, they saw that she wouldn't engage in the same kind of gossip. And I say she worked in a Montessori school. And you think, oh, Montessori school, that's got to be an ideal kind
That's
of
an
workplace,
ideal. It's
right?
like
It's so
private
nice and
schools,
sweet and thoughtful.
Everybody's special in private schools.
Yeah, so it's everybody's thoughtful and but actually she said, the teachers, they were constantly complaining about the parents and the management, the administration. The administration was constantly complaining about the parents and the teachers. The parents are constantly complaining about the administration and the teachers. And the teachers would be complaining about the teachers, talking behind each other's back. It was just like, it was full of that, just full of that. And she just kind of went in there and transcended it and just wouldn't engage in that kind of, and she's not the kind of person to get in people's face and say, hey, I don't, I'm not going to tolerate that. No, but she just, by her nature, kind of just radiating that kind of like, higher vibe, people began to change in her presence. And so this is something that Luke can think about. It's just like, if people if you don't engage in it yourself, people kind of start to get the vibe, they'll lift up too. To one degree or another, it'll start to improve. So let's, because we have little time, let's just quickly read through Prabhupada's commentary on this, if you don't mind, Raghu.
Sure.
He said, one should speak in such a way as not to, one should not speak in such a way.
Which commentary?
This is a commentary to the austerity of speech verse.
Gotcha.
No. Austerity of speech consists in speaking of words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to others, and also regularly reciting Vedic literature. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, they can speak the truth for the instruction of the students, but such a teacher should not speak to those that are not their students if it will agitate their minds. We move through this world carefully, not trying to disturb others, This is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles. Now, this is how Prabhupada says, you're not talking nonsense, right? The process of speaking in spiritual circles. Do you know what he's going to say, Raghu?
No.
No. You've said it before. You've shared this before. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what they are saying. Right? In other words, how do I know my words are meaningful? We mentioned that the sages, everything they said was deeply meaningful, because it's representing the deep, meaningful, absolute truth that's present there in these sacred texts. So one should quote from scriptural authority to back up what they're saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There's a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech.
Yeah, it's powerful, like Kaustubha, just like speaking to you, or people have been practicing bhakti for a while. And that's why I encourage students to learn shlokas. In our teacher training, we study shlokas, because once they're in your mind, they almost become like markers that keep you on the road before you start blabbing stuff. And then you have these reference points, and then they just spill out of your mouth. Whatever you store in your mind starts to spill out of your mouth. It could be political rhetoric. It could be Hollywood movies, whatever we're putting in there. And so when you talk to your point of devotees or people practicing bhakti, you're always either referring to what they said by backing it up with some shastric statement. Mm-hmm. It's powerful, and that's a great thing. And we encourage everybody. We have to have maybe we should have a shloka class on.
Someone asked for that recently. Who was that? Ramit. I was asking for that.
Ramit. Key shlokas. That's right.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Do that on Patreon. Another reason to go to Patreon. Well, let's get that going.
Okay.
All right.
Do you have a closing statement, sir?
Well, let's just finish this up. Those were the austerities of the body, then the speech, and now for the mind. Text 16, chapter 17 of Bhagavad-Gita. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. This threefold austerity, body, words, and mind, performed with transcendental people of faith, not expecting material benefits, but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in sattva, in the mode of goodness. Boom.
Boom. Boom. Yes, look at Henry. He's already clapping his hands. Thanks, everybody, for joining us live. Live is fun. You got to join us live here. You just got to wake up a little earlier, 5 a.m. If you're in California, you got to wake up at 2 a.m. That's a little crazy, but that's okay. You can just stay up late. Thanks for everybody who's joining us here on Zoom today. And you can join Zoom, too, and jump through a few hoops by contacting Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and then she will give you the secret codes. Once you get the secret codes, you can enter. Thanks for everybody joining us, the others out there listening to us behind the scenes. If you like what we're doing, go to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. And remember, this is a community-supported podcast, and so many of you guys support us already. I want to thank you. It helps keeping this boat floating because this has become our full-time career in the pandemic and out of the pandemic, and we love it. So thank you for letting us serving you. Thank you for the community that keeps me high and keeps the bar getting raised. I'm going for a road trip today, so I'm going to what's it called? Binge listen to. Is it inappropriate for me to listen to my own podcast?
Because it's Bhagavatam, it's great. Prabhupada used to read his own books.
There you go. I'm going to do that. Here's the funnest part of the day. I think any spiritual path, I was telling this to Mara earlier, any spiritual path should have you waking up and dancing. Right? If you were going to design your own spiritual path, wouldn't it include waking up early and dancing around the house?
Look, Nitai Lieberman is dancing. Look at him.
I love this kid. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe.